All right, Kirby Smart is ruining this part of college football. It's the big elephant in the room. It's something I've wanted to talk about for a while now. And for Georgia fans, this is good news. But if you're a Florida fan, a Georgia Tech fan, an Auburn fan, either close your ears or open your ears if you want to learn some facts, because these are facts. Kirby Smart is ruining Georgia's traditional rivalries. He's running away with the Florida rivalry. He's thumping Auburn left and right. He's going to cruise every single time, almost every single time they play Georgia Tech. These rivalries mean a lot to Georgia fans. And every year, Georgia fans get to see Kirby Smart and the Dogs just beat Florida again in Jacksonville, thump Auburn again, beat Georgia Tech. And it just feels a little different. Let's talk about the Florida game for just a second. If you're a young Georgia fan, this might be hard to wrap your mind around, but before Kirby Smart got to Georgia, the Dogs had a real trouble. They were struggling hard to beat the Gators. Through the 90s and early 2000s, that 20-year period, it was tough sledding for the Dogs. Every time they went to Jacksonville, Florida dominated the series. Well, now things have changed. Kirby Smart is 6-2 against Florida, 6 wins in the last 7 years. The Georgia in general is 9-4 in their last 13 years, but this is about Kirby Smart taking that rivalry and running away with it. He lost to the Gators in 2016 with a freshman quarterback, bad offense. That was year one, right? I give every coach a pass in year one. I'm going to do the same to Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Year one, they just ride it away. And then, of course, he lost to Florida in 2020, their best season in quite a while. But these games aren't even close. Georgia's won the last 3 games by at least 22 points in Jacksonville. 5 of their last 6 wins over Florida have been by double digits. Georgia now leads the series 56-44-2. Florida will never catch Georgia in this series rivalry. It's not ever going to happen because of Kirby Smart. I don't see Billy Napier and the Gators beating Georgia this year. It might be several years before Florida beats Georgia for a lot of reasons, mainly because they don't have the depth and the overall talent top to bottom on the roster. They don't have the coaching staff. They don't have it. They've got to get it together. I don't know if Florida's going to be better than they were last year. I think they will be because they were so bad last year. They do have an experienced quarterback coming back. I like some of the pieces they have defensively. They're not on Georgia's level. They're not on Georgia's level. Far from it. Georgia has taken that rivalry and taken off with it. And the game, I don't feel has the same, it doesn't feel the same when you know that Georgia's going to beat Florida that day. You know, when you see the people partying in Jacksonville, it doesn't seem as lively, I guess, because for a while, you know, the games were a little closer and Georgia fans were hopeful to go down there and win. Now they expect it. And Florida fans know that they're going to go down there and lose. So that's just one rivalry. It's one of the biggest in college football, but Kirby Smart has almost destroyed that rivalry because of how much it has gone Georgia's way, and I think it's going to. Against Auburn, Kirby Smart is 8-1 against Auburn. The only loss didn't even matter because Georgia beat them in the biggest Georgia-Auburn game ever. Just a couple months later in that 2017 SEC Championship game, Georgia's won 7 in a row, probably going to make it 8 this fall. But Georgia's had success against Auburn. Oh, my God. 16-3 in the last 19 meetings since 2006. 16-3. So they were crushing Auburn's brains in before Kirby got there, but now it's just different. 3 of the last 4 wins over Auburn have been by at least 21 points. This used to be a rivalry that was back and forth. But every year, back and forth. For 100 years, it was Georgia and Auburn, Georgia and Auburn. Since 2006, Georgia's just taken that rivalry and took off with it. Mark Richt took it and flipped it Georgia's way in a big way. Kirby said, I'll take it from here, Mark. I'll take it from here. We're just going to cruise against Auburn. Yet Auburn gave him a fair shot, fair chance, gave him a good fight last year. But the best team clearly beat down Auburn in the fourth quarter and won that game. But that game means more in Auburn. And I will say this, those people are passionate. They love their Tigers. It is Auburn football over everything. I completely respect it. It's one of the best atmospheres that I've covered a college football game in, 100%. And it's different because those fans, they are so desperate to beat Georgia. Desperate. So anytime Georgia plays over there, it's one of the best environments. It's one of the biggest home games of their season. It's a big deal. And they get up for it because they're hopeful they can see Auburn beat Georgia. It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen much at all. Whereas when the game's in Athens, yes, it's a big deal. Georgia wants to beat Auburn. but it's not as crazy, it's not as loud, and it's not as epic because Georgia fans know what's going to happen. They expect to beat Auburn. And that didn't used to be the case. You have to fight for 4 quarters, give it everything you have if you want to beat Auburn, because they're really good. Georgia's usually really good when those two teams have played, for a long, long time. Now it's how bad is Georgia going to beat Auburn? Last year it wasn't by much at all. But before then, the last three of Georgia's last 4 wins over Auburn again have been by 21 points. They're not even close. They're not even close. Hugh Freeze has got a long way to go before he catches up to what Kirby Smart has built at Georgia. And I don't know if they're going to be better than they were last year or not. Auburn fans are optimistic. They've got positive vibes going on. They think the program's heading in the right direction, and maybe they're right. But I'm not sold on it. And I think they're going to go to Athens this year and lose. That would be 8 in a row. Georgia wins over Auburn. Georgia leads the series over Auburn 64 to 56 to 8. That series lead used to go back and forth as well. Georgia, Auburn, Georgia. It was so close. Now, I don't think Auburn is ever going to catch Georgia in the series. Georgia will always lead the overall series with Auburn because of what Kirby Smart has done and continues to do. He's ruined that rivalry too. It used to mean more. It doesn't mean as much anymore because Georgia expects to win those games. Again, if you're a young Georgia fan, how many times have you seen Auburn beat Georgia? Probably not a lot. And I think it's kind of tempered down the rivalry and the excitement that Georgia-Auburn used to be. Same with Georgia-Florida. Georgia Tech, again, if you're a young Georgia fan, Georgia Tech used to beat Georgia here and there. And they still do here and there, but they're not going to beat Georgia for a long, long time. Kirby Smart is 6-1 against Georgia Tech, including 6 wins in a row. 5 of Georgia's last 6 wins over Georgia Tech have been by 23 or more points. Last year, like Auburn did, Georgia Tech put up a good fight. They may have played their best they played all year. And in no point in that game did anyone think Georgia was going to lose to Georgia Tech. You could tell that Georgia Tech was throwing haymakers, giving it everything they had. And they hung around. There's no doubt about it. But no one thought they were going to win the game. And no one thinks they're going to beat Georgia anytime soon. And I know they're a program on the rise as well. They're doing things better. And Georgia Tech should be a program that is respectable. They haven't been respectable in a while. They haven't mattered in a while. And again, that's a game where, Georgia fans invade Atlanta. There's more red than gold. And it's the end of the season, in Athens. Usually it's a game about the seniors, not about the rivalry, because everyone knows what's going to happen. But that's just the way it is. Georgia is running away with that rivalry, but they always have. But Kirby Smart may never lose to Georgia Tech. That might sound crazy to say, but he might never lose. There's no reason why Kirby Smart and the Dawg should ever lose to Georgia Tech. They will always have better players. They will always have more resources. They should probably always have a better staff. They've got everything that Georgia Tech doesn't. There's no excuse why Georgia should ever lose to Georgia Tech, and it may never happen as long as Kirby Smart is in Athens. Tennessee is not a rival. I know Tennessee fans think of Georgia as a rival. Georgia is one of their biggest games of the season, sometimes the biggest game of the season, if we're talking about 2022, but in no way is this a rivalry. Georgia has passed Tennessee as an all-time program. Those people will get real triggered if you tell them that. But it's the truth. Georgia leads the series 28 to 23 to 2. Kirby Smart is 7-1 against Tennessee. The only loss came on a Hail Mary. If Rico McGraw doesn't take his helmet off after that long Jacob Eason touchdown, they win that game. And Kirby Smart is 8-0, right? That personal foul it moved Georgia back, and then I don't know if it was a squib or a kick, but Tennessee got it on like the 50, Hail Mary, boom. Georgia should not have lost that game. They should be 8-0 against Tennessee. But these games aren't close either. The last 7 wins, the last 7 Georgia-Tennessee games, Georgia's won the game by at least 14 points. They're not close. They're not competitive. Georgia expects to beat Tennessee by double digits every time they play. And Georgia fans feel the same. And that's an atmosphere in Knoxville that it's more of a, not a hopeful reaction from the crowd, but a lot of nervous energy when Georgia plays up there. Where at Auburn, they're ready to go, fired up. I think they're louder than Tennessee. Just my opinion. That might be wrong from a decibel standpoint, but Auburn feels louder than Tennessee does to me. But Georgia expects to win that game every single year, and it might continue to be that way. Again, teams that don't matter, South Carolina, Kirby's 7-1 against the Gamecocks. He's 8-0 against Kentucky, 8-0 against Missouri. He's beaten Alabama. He's beat LSU. He's crushed Ole Miss and threw them in the dumpster last year. He's doing everything, but part of me thinks he is ruining these traditional rivalries that Georgia has because it doesn't feel the same anymore. When you know Georgia's going down to Jacksonville to hammer Florida, then they're going to beat Auburn again. Then they're going to run through Georgia Tech again. It just feels different. Part of me thinks that he is ruining that part of college football, but if you're a Georgia fan, you're cool with it. You want it to keep happening. I think it might. Thanks for watching this video. Really appreciate it. If you want to sign up to our newsletter, that link is down below. You can read everything we have going on Dawg Post. A lot of recruiting updates, a lot of stories coming. Should be a big week over on the site. So if you enjoy these videos, sign up to Dawg Post. You can sign up by our free newsletter. That link is down below. Hope to see you on the website.